We'll wait for 1 more minute. We'll start at 12:05.
Oh, 12:05. Okay.
Yeah, because we have a lot more students that might be trickling in.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, see, Rosa's here to help us. Hi, Rosa. Welcome in.
Hi, Rosa.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good.
Good. Thank you for coming in to help us.
Yeah, I want to hear because the students are asking questions, so maybe I can help sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah, you could be one of the proofreaders.
Awesome. All right, Amy, whenever you're ready.
We're ready. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning to learn more about PIQ, Personal Insight Questions for the UC application. That's part of the UC application. My name is Amy Chung. I am your counselor. I'm an international counselor, and I have 2 team members here. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'll go first. I'm Soojin Kim. I'm one of the international counselors at PCC as well. I, for some reason, have always struggled with PIQ's essays my whole life whenever I applied to schools. So I understand how you feel as, for some of you, English as your second language. So we wanted to offer this workshop for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat or after the presentation. So welcome in, everybody.
Hi, my name is Rosa Villegas. I'm one of the educational advisors. I'm just here to learn from these wonderful counselors and to help just being here. So thank you all for being here and for taking time to join us during this workshop.
Yeah, this is a very small, intimate group, and we already know some of you quite well. So feel comfortable with us, and feel free to ask questions. If you like to ask at the end, that's perfectly fine. We have 1 hour together, and so these are the topics we want to make sure we cover within the 1 hour that we have together. We want to make sure we acknowledge the anxiety that you all have as you are facing to, this big task of writing this essay that determined the rest of your life. It feels like that your future hangs in whether you write a good essay or not, when in fact it's not that big of a task if you start on it early. So we'll spend some time talking about that. We'll talk about the parameters, what the universities are looking for, how many questions, how many words you have to write. So we'll go over that in details. And then Soojin will go over the questions. We'll go over each questions and talk about what they're looking for in terms of answers. And then we'll give you some examples of case studies of some of the good ones and some of the not so good ones. And then we will end with resources that we have other YouTube videos that we upload for you to watch. So in addition to hearing from us, you'll hear directly from the UC's representatives, the admissions officers, as to what they're looking for and resources on how to help you write a better essay. So we'll give you all those resources, and then obviously stay back to answer any questions you may have. Okay, so go ahead, let's start. So feeling anxious about writing the PIQ is a very common and normal thing, especially during this time, and knowing that November 30th is the deadline, and that's the application to UCs, and also the same time you also submit the personal statement. So it's going to be a daunting task if you wait until the last minute. So we would encourage all of you to start early. Hopefully some of you have already started looking at the questions, deciding which one you want to write. Some of you may have anxiety, which is very, very common. Even native speakers, native students have anxiety. You may have worries about your English language, which is also very common. With Soojin, English is your second language, right? English is my 4th language. So I've been through this also myself. It took me about 3 months to write it when I was applying to UCLA as a graduate student, and probably 10 drafts before I felt comfortable. So it takes time. So it helps if you start early. Language is always something that I know international students are worried about your grammar. Maybe you don't write perfect English, but you know that you can seek help. You can get help from counselors. You can also get help from the transfer center, which give workshops on a regular basis. They also have UC representatives that come to us to help you review your essays from the perspective of the admissions officers. So you have those free resources, and we'll make sure I show you how to get to that page later on, so that you have a couple people to help look through it with you and give you ideas and maybe recommendations for improvement. So it will require a couple of drafts, but do know that you have help. You can get help from friends, native speakers. You can also go to the tutoring center. There's a writing tutoring center that also can help you with proofreading your essays and give you recommendations. Yeah, so you also have, think about things that you could write about. Many international students share with us that, I don't work. I don't have a part-time job. I'm only new to the US. This is just my second year. I don't have a lot to write about. But if you start taking time to brainstorm on a piece of paper or on the computer, you start writing about things that you have that's important to you. Like even as an international student, you have experiences that are unique. Like even with taking care of your family members, taking care of your younger siblings, working in your parents' business, or taking care of someone, or your struggle as an international student, those are all can be writing topics for the PIQ. So you do have things to write about. For example, adapting to a new culture. Most of you have to adapt to the new learning environment in the US, the way you were taught in your country and the way you, being taught here in the US may be very different. So having to adapt, to adjust to the new way of learning, the new way of participating, could be writing topics. You can also learn about new language, the way you learn a language. Many international students have to learn a new language, right? It's a long process. So mastering another language is something you can also write about. Or if you have any financial difficulties, or you've overcome any personal difficulties or challenges that impact your school, you can also write about. So a lot of these can be writing topics, just depending on how you tweak it to fit the questions. So in terms of parameters, so what to expect when you write. So basically the universities, only UCs, by the way, require questions, right? You know that if you apply to Cal State University, you don't need to write the personal essays. If you apply to private universities, they have what's called the common applications with short essays. So they're not exactly like how UCs would like for you to write. And also, let's say you apply to 3 or 5 UCs, you only have to write one essay. That would be good for all UCs. You don't write a separate essay for every UC that you apply to. Even if your major is different, let's say you apply to UC Berkeley as a business major, but you apply to UCLA as an economics major, then you apply to UC Riverside as a political science major, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to address a specific major in your answer. So it's only one essay that you have to write for all the UCs, just like one application for all UCs. So there are basically a total of 4 questions, 4 answers you have to provide. The first one is required. The first question is required. And then after that, there are 7 choices of questions. From the 7 choices, you choose 3. So you provide basically a total of 4 answers to 4 questions. The nice things about the second part is you get to choose. Out of the 7, you read all 7 questions, and then you choose the ones that you have most to write about. That's really is relevant to you. You have more example, and you can have more answers to write. So you cannot answer all 7 questions and get more points. You only get the same, you just are expected to write 4 answers. So writing more won't give you more points. And each answer is worth maximum 350 words. So if you write more than 350 words, it's going to get cut off. So try to stay within 350 words. And all questions have the same value. So it's not like if I answer the first questions better, I get more points. It's not like that. So they're all treated equally. So make sure you select questions that are most relevant to your experience, that you have a lot to say or write about, and that reflect you, that describe you and your personal experience best. And whenever you write, you always want to write in the I statement. It's because it's about you. Yeah, so we want to just talk about the do's and don'ts in writing the statement. So let's first go over the do's. Do answer the questions, because sometimes we read the answers. By the time we finish the answer, we were not sure what you were trying to answer. That's not good. So you want to make sure you read the questions carefully. Some of the questions have multiple parts. So make sure you answer all the parts within the questions. And some of the questions are a little bit tricky. They ask you this or this. So you don't have to answer both. So some of them has an or in the middle of it. So you just have to answer one or the other within the question. And make sure you write about yourself, write about your life experiences, write about your interests, things that are important to you, and use I statements. So don't write about your family, don't write about your professors. Even if you do write about your professors, how they influence you, you can still write about it, but mainly the focus should be about you. It's like you telling your story, right? So it doesn't have to be very fancy, big words. They just want to know about you. So that's very personal though. So there's no right or wrong answer when you talk about your experience. Try to be as detailed as possible. Give example if you can, because example really draw the point home. So if you are able to provide example, that helps. So talk about, this is how you are now, but talk about like different steps you have taken to get to where you are. What are some of the specific examples? So think about what, like the 5 W questions: what, where, when. So think about, did I address what? Did I address why? Did I address when? So think of these questions as you write to help you be more specific or answer the question how. So all of these, as you write, try to ask yourself these questions so that you can provide more specific answers. So what you don't want to happen is you write an essay, but the essay is about somebody else, how your parents have done in their business, how your professors have done their research. And so in the end, they're like, okay, I learned a lot about your professors. I learned a lot about your brothers who influence you, but how are you being influenced? So you want to focus always on yourself and not about others. It's good to write about your families, how they influence you, but only 1 or 2 sentences, and then focus it back on yourself. Try not to use acronym. Spell things out. Like if you attend Pasadena City College, write Pasadena City College and not PCC, because they may not know what PCC means, even though to you, like everybody knows what PCC means, or ISC. So you would write about International Student Center instead of, the acronym. Try not to repeat, because you only have 350 words. So not to repeat things that they already know from the application. So you don't have to explain about the A grade or the B grade. They could see it. Like you list all the clubs you have joined, so they could see that those are the clubs that you have joined. So don't give them a long list of things, because they already know that in a different part of your applications. So what you want to do is to focus on things that you want them to know more about you. So don't list out courses that you have taken because they already seen that. Don't list the grades because they have already seen that. Write something that the reader is not seeing anywhere else on the application, like your motivation. What motivates you, your interest, why you chose this major, what are the struggles you have faced, and how you have overcome your struggles. Those are the things they cannot find on your applications. They want to know more about you. And as I mentioned this earlier, pick one, don't just pick one campus. It's okay to apply to all 9 UCs, and you just need to write one answer to all of them. So you don't write each essay for each UC that you applied. So even if you have different majors, it's perfectly fine. It's very common for students to have different majors when they apply to different universities. That's perfectly fine. The university readers understand that.
Thanks, Amy. I just wanted to add, some students write like, I love to go to UCLA, right? Study business economics. Don't write that in your essay unless you're only applying to UCLA. If you're applying to Berkeley and Irvine and San Diego, for example, don't just focus on go Bruins, you know, go UCLA, because all of these schools will read your essay. So please put it in general terms, the UC campuses or the UC schools, instead of focusing on one school.
Anything else you want to add, Soojin?
I also wanted to point out that when you write these responses, you don't have to, I know you went through your ESL classes, your English comp classes, and the professors ask you to write a thesis statement, you know, write those topic sentences with 3 examples and a conclusion. You don't have to stick to that format. Write as if you're talking to someone, like Amy said, about yourself, like you were in an interview. So that's like free writing. So don't stress out about meeting the essay format, like writing these paragraphs. You only have 350 words. Okay. If there's anything else, Amy, that you want to add, if not, we can go into the questions.
So go ahead. I'll think of something, I'll jump in.
All right. All right, students. So let's go over the actual questions, the questions that you will need to answer. All students who are transferring to the UC school will have to answer this one required question. I met a student who answered 4 questions out of the 7 choices, but they didn't know that they had to write the required question. So just be careful that there is one question that all of you have to answer, and that's this question. So the question reads, please describe how you have prepared for your intended major, including your readiness to succeed in upper division courses once you enroll at the university. Like Amy said, this is a 2-part question. You're not only going to talk about how you have prepared for your major. You will also talk about your readiness to succeed in the upper division classes after you transfer. We'll break it down in a little bit, but I really want to ask you to pay attention to these bullet points here at the bottom. So we will at the end share a worksheet with you. This worksheet will have some bullet points, some questions that will help you to brainstorm to answer these questions to get started if you haven't done so. So I copied some of those bullet points over here so we can learn about them as well. So the bullet point reads, have classroom experiences shaped your interest in your major? So again, don't talk about I took English 1A in spring, I took English 1B in fall. That's what they want to know. They already know that from your academic history. So talk about your specific project, specific book that you've read, specific lecture that inspired you, a video that you watched. Okay, so specific experience that you have not talked about anywhere else in the application that really sparked your interest in this major. Second bullet point reads, what experiences outside of the classroom have helped develop this interest? And then the third one says, what other influences like your culture, community, family have steered you toward this major? So anything outside of the classroom, any experiences that you've had, you could talk about it in your essay, or sorry, in your PIQ response. You can talk about, hey, I'm from this culture, I'm from, the South America, I'm from the, European countries, and in my culture, this is how it is, and in the US, it's completely different. And so there was this shock. However, my background have influenced me to think this way, therefore I chose this major, for example. That's perfectly fine. Or maybe you have someone in your family that needed extra support, maybe your grandparents or your parents or younger siblings, that really helped you to think about a major in education, or major in sociology, psychology, something like that. So those are fine as well. You could also talk about the fourth bullet point. How is your intended major tied to your long-term goal? So if you want to also talk about what you want to do after you graduate from the UCs, so maybe you want to pursue a graduate program, maybe you want to pursue a specific career, maybe you want to go back to your home country, help with your parents' business, anything that you want to talk about in terms of your long-term goal that connects to your intended major, you can talk about that. And the last two bullet points, it says, what are the upper division courses? Also, what experiences demonstrate your ability to succeed in these upper division courses? So some of you may not know what upper division courses are. That's okay, let me explain. So if you're, for example, a UCLA student, and for the first 2 years of your UCLA experience, you'll be taking lower division courses. For your third and fourth year, you'll be taking upper division courses. You're transfer students, so the UC wants to know, right? So, okay, you've done your lower division classes your first 2 years, which are very introductory courses, and you've gotten A's and B's, good job. Are you ready to tackle the third and fourth year level courses? These are the upper division courses. These are often more specific to the major. It has depth instead of the breadth. So instead of being broad and general, it'll be very focused on specific topics. I really want to encourage you, and counselors can help you with that as well. But if you want to go to this school that you want to go, so for example, like Berkeley, go to their catalog, look up the curriculum for your major that you're applying to, look at some of the courses that you'll be taking after you transfer, and ask yourself, am I ready to tackle these upper division courses? What have I done to prepare? Either academically, you can talk about your motivation to tackle these courses and be successful in them. Okay, so that's what they want to know. Again, it's a two-part question. So talk about your preparedness and your readiness to succeed. Okay. All right, so that was a really long explanation, because that's the important question, the required question that everybody will choose. So now you have your 7 questions to choose 3, right? You choose 3 out of the 7. So the first question is in the leadership topic. So the question reads, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. So like Amy said, they give you 3 different experiences that you can talk about in terms of leadership. You can choose one. You don't have to have all 3. One experience where you demonstrated your leadership, and you can talk about it. Here in the bullet point, it helps you to think about, okay, what is leadership? What does a leader do? So please brainstorm, try to identify and define what a leader is in your own words. And then, of course, tie it to experience, how you have demonstrated those qualities, those characteristics of a leader. Okay. And then, of course, don't just talk about this is leadership and that was me. Be more specific in your examples. Exactly what had happened. Remember the 5 W's and 1 H? When did it happen? Who did you influence? What happened? why did you act certain way, and then how it played out. So more detailed example is better when you're describing your leadership experience. And again, everyone will have different definitions of leadership. It doesn't have to be you serving as a president in a student club. It could be you helping your younger sibling to do better in math. That's leadership. You going out of your way to help others, to influence others in a positive manner. Okay, so any leadership experience is okay. Question number 2 is about creativity. So the question reads, every person, that's every one of you in this room, including me, that makes me feel good. Every person has a creative side, and it can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and of course, artistically, to name a few. So here's the real question. It says, describe how you express your creative side. So I just met with a student, and she actually said that her creative side is she knows how to teach other students better. She knows, what pictures to choose when she's teaching, her students, because she's a tutor at PCC. She knows what fonts to use when she creates her slides. She knows what examples to use, to help the students. So creativity is not just about drawing well or playing an instrument. It is about problem solving, thinking something that's brilliant and outside of the box. So if you look at the bullet points, the first bullet point ties to the problem solving criteria. The second bullet point ties into original innovative thinking. And of course, the third bullet point is about your artistic talent. So read them over. Again, no need to talk about all three. You can choose one creative side that you have, and you can really elaborate on that example. When you describe your creative side, don't just list things that you know how to do. Go into detail. Talk about how this experience have influenced you and others around you in very specific, detailed way. So, because I've seen essays where people just list, I've been playing piano for 9 years. I also know how to play flute. Oh, I know how to write. I shoot films, and they would just list them. Not a very good example. You want to focus in one, really elaborate on that specific example. Question number 3 goes kind of hand in hand with the second question, which was the creativity. It's about talent or skill. But of course, if you have a different skill that you want to talk about, you can answer both questions if you want. So the question reads, what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? So as you can see in the bullet point, it helps you to kind of write out your talents or skills. Maybe, you know how to speak like Amy, 3 languages, or maybe you have special talent or skills that's unique to you. And then the second bullet point reads, were these talents or skills the same a few years ago? What changed? What improved? So you're not just defining your greatest talent, you're talking about how it first sparkled, right? How it first started, and then how it's been developing over time. I really want to suggest for you to not talk about talent or skills that you've had during your elementary school year. If you knew how to play a guitar back in middle school, let's say you haven't played in 10 years, don't talk about that maybe. Talk about the things that you still have as your talent that are recent to you. They really want to know more about you that had happened within the last couple of years. So while you were attending PCC, if you want to talk about how high school years, middle school years, that's okay, as long as it has been continued until now. And then also definitely talk about how these skills or talents are meaningful to you, how it impacted you, those around you, possibly your community, etc. So talk about over time, how it grew, how it developed, and how it impacted other people as well.
Oh, go back, Soojin.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
some of you may not think of, time management skill as a skill set that's actually very valuable. Time management skills, organizational skills, just ability to make plans. Those are skill set that you probably have. that may help you stay as the A students that you are. And so you could talk about that. So I'll use myself as an example. I'm thinking about the skill set that I have that is most valuable to me and those around me. It's actually my organizational skills. I just love to organize things. That's just part of my life. One time I was thinking, like, why is it that I love to do laundry and fold laundry so much on weekend? And then it's like, it's because I like to organize things. I just don't like to see things that are like all over the place, disorganized. And so I love to organize things. I can even use that as an example. I just like to see things in order. And that helps me work in my work as a counselor. So sometimes students look at a long list of classes on the IGETC list, and they have no idea how to choose these classes. So helping you make education plan is actually part of my organization and planning skills. So and in addition to my role as a counselor, I'm also a mother, a wife, a caretaker, and I'm also, a friend to a lot of other colleagues and friends that I have. So that skill set that I have, organization skills, actually benefits the people around me, because oftentimes they come to me with problems and I would help them organize. Okay, what if you do it this way? What are the 5 benefits you get from it? And what are the pros and cons? So these are all also organizational skills. So that could be something that you can think about that you might already have, that make you unique because you benefit from it and your families and friends benefit from the skills and how you can use it in your daily life.
Thanks, Amy. And I'm one of the, people that benefit greatly from her organization skills. So thank you very much.
Yeah, like even when I was a student or when I was a new counselor, I would work at different colleges. I would have binders, like 3 binders for 3 different colleges, and then I'll have table of contents. I'll collect all the notes and I highlighted different colors so that it's consistent. I just love to do that. So yeah, these are organizational skills that many of you have.
Yes, for sure. And you want to be that specific, like Amy said, highlighting different words, making different color tabs, or more specific examples you can provide, the better about your skills. Alrighty, question number 4, opportunity or barrier. So the question reads, describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. Again, no need to talk about both educational opportunity and barrier. You can just pick one and talk about it. So the first part of the brainstorm questions here is for educational opportunities. The second part is for barriers. Educational opportunities can be, if you've taken, for example, extra ESL classes to help you with pronunciation skills, maybe, or, grammar, anything that you took, any classes that you did extra. So it could really help you to improve your academics and other classes, those classes you can talk about, or any programs that you've joined. If you're a part of Pathways, First Year Experience, if you're part of the Honors Program, if you're part of MESA or MAS Squared at our school, these are the great educational opportunities. You can talk about how you have benefited from these programs. Don't just talk about the program itself. You can for a little bit, but it should be all about you, how you have benefited it, what you have learned from it, what you took from that program, and how you have utilized it, applied to your classes. For your educational barrier, of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be academic barriers. Any, personal issues could potentially give you barriers in your academics. But there is another question that follows this one that talks about your challenges. So you can decide whether you want to put it in this question or the other one. But if you've had any educational barriers, challenges, you coming to the US, taking accounting classes in English, I cannot imagine, taking math classes in English in your second language, things like that. That could be, a huge educational barrier. Don't just talk about the barrier, talk about how you overcame it, talk about the steps that you've taken to overcome it. Talk about, also who you reached out to get help. Maybe you went to tutoring, you reached out to your instructor, your counselors, etc. Alrighty, so that
I can
was,
give an example about the barrier. And many of you can also relate with the educational barrier. So I came to the US when I was 14 years old. English is my fourth language, and my parents do not speak English. So I'm the first generation college students, like many of you are, having to learn English as my fourth language at an older age. That's also a challenge in itself. And I'm sure all of you can relate. When you read the book for the first time, maybe you see a classmate read the book once and they get it. They read the chapter once and they get it. But for me, I had to read it 3 or 4 times. I had to slow down. I had to highlight it in different colors. Then I have to stop and look up vocabularies. With math was also a struggle. Other students just do the math homework once and they get it. For me, I had to do the questions and answer it 2 or 3 times. And then the day before the test, I would review it again. So it's like very painstaking for me to take a much longer time for me to get the homework assignment, to really get the assignments itself, to write the papers. I may have to write it 3 or 4 times, where my classmates may have to just write it once and it sounds really good. But English is not my first language, so I had to take a lot longer time. So the struggle I faced was, I can't just get it the first time. I would have to, the willingness for me to put forth the time and the effort to compensate for me not being, a native speaker. So I would describe the steps that I have taken to overcome that barrier for English, being an English learner. Not having parents who can help me. No one else in my family could help me. I'm the first one in college. So a lot of things I have to do on my own, learning how to fill out the application form, learning how to drive, all these things that I have, the skill set that I have today, I've learned it by myself or with friends' help, but my family cannot help me because they don't want to help, but they can't really help me with their limited English ability. Financially, my family couldn't help me, so I relied on financial aid and scholarships, and then just working part-time. So these are all the things that I have, obstacles that I've done to overcome. So many of you have similar experience as I described. You could also think about it from that angle and write about the struggles you have as an international student, even making friends, adjusting to the US culture, adjusting to the teaching style that professors have in the US could be something that you could write about in this particular case here, question number 4.
all right, thanks, Amy. Varun, you've asked if the second part of question number 4 and question 5 are basically the same thing. They're very, very similar, to be honest with you. So if you have 2 different things that you want to talk about, you can utilize both questions. But if you only have one challenge that you've had that influenced you academically, maybe you want to stick to one or the other. The other one is more about educational barriers. So like Amy said, if it is closely tied to the educational aspect, you use this question. If it's a personal challenge that had impacted your academic achievement, you stick with this question. So yeah, there are some similar questions here out of the 7. So you can maybe choose one or the other, not both, because you don't want to repeat yourself basically. So that's a good segue to this question, question number 5, significant challenge. So the question reads, describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you've taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? So if you had financial difficulties, I've had students write about their emotional difficulties, mental health issues, physical health issues that they have faced. But you have proven yourself that you could succeed academically despite of this challenge that you had. So make sure you talk about the steps again that you have taken to overcome it. And it's a 2-part question, so don't forget to answer the the latter question, how has this challenge affected your academic achievement? Okay.
This
So
could
that's
be
question
something
number
that you could write about while we're in the pandemic right now. So learning in college in the middle of a pandemic, having to adjust everything in such a short time, coming to the US, expecting to go to classes, and then to be switched to learn online. Like the week before the semester began, we switched a lot of the courses that we offer on campus to online, having to adjust that and not having your family close by, worrying about your family getting sick, you yourself worrying about getting COVID, not being able to talk with your friends or hang out with your friends like you used to. So these are some of the challenges we can all relate. But what have you done to help yourself make life better for yourself? Have you reached out? Have you tried to still study despite the difficulty? How have you done that? How have you overcome that? So you could still write about the process you have helped yourself to face this challenge, to overcome it. I just read a lot of scholarships. I'm one of the scholarship readers. This was actually one of the questions they asked. Write about a challenge in your life. Many of these students chose to write about their experiences with pandemic and what they have done to overcome this, to still use an alternative way to get to where they need to be. So instead of having club meeting on campus, they have creatively decided to do clubs meetings online. They can still do tutoring, so they can still do volunteer online. So to help other students, you don't have to do it in person. So what creative ways have you utilized to still get to where you want to be? Like different ways you adapted to in terms of studying. How do you get help? Did you get help from tutors online? You can still get to that goal doing things online. So just think about different things that you have learned to go about your life despite the pandemic, despite the limitations that we all face. Like I learned how to cut hair for my whole family. I learned how to cook. Things like I've never had the time to do before. I've utilized this time to improve myself. So that's something you could write about.
Awesome. All righty. Thanks, Amy. Okay, question number 6, public service. So you have to remember UCs care a lot about 3 things: research, learning, giving back to the community. Okay, so you do research, so asking good questions, and then you obtain knowledge, learning, and then you apply it and give it back to the community. So that's their true mission for the UC schools. So this question actually ties into the giving back to the community piece, the public service. So it asks, what have you done to make your school or your community a better place? So again, it doesn't have to be something grand or something that you receive rewards and awards for. This could be you helping someone in your classroom. This could be you helping someone in your community. Very simple things you can write about. But they're just asking, what have you done specifically? Give good examples, and it should be all about you, not about like your organization that you're part of, right? Or the program that you're part of. It should be all about you and what you have done. So that's question number 6. And then the last question is the broad question. Not many students answer this one because it's such a broad question, but it reads, beyond what has already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? So if there's anything that you feel like you have not shared that's important to you, you can write about it here. Maybe your life values, maybe about your passion. And then if you just feel like you have this unique characteristic, this burning passion about something that would be a great addition to the UC campus, you can write about it in this question. Okay, so that's the last question that you can choose from. After personal insight questions, you will have a small section called additional comment section. you don't have to write this additional comment section if you don't want to, but if you feel like there's something that you want to let the readers know, you can briefly write about it. This is only, I thought it was only 150 characters, not 150 words, but over here it says 150 words. Maybe they've changed it because I just captured this this morning from a student meeting. So it says 550 words. So I'm pretty sure you can, you know, exhaust it if you wanted to. But like Amy said, if you want to talk about, you know, the pandemic or the social justice movement and how it had impacted you, if you feel like it has impacted you significantly, you know, more than how it impacted other people, then you can write about that here if you haven't done so in your essays. But just don't write another essay because you're not getting like points for this. You know, this is just literally additional comment if you want to add that.
Like if you have a lot of W's, if you want to explain, this would be the place.
Yes, so there are two additional comment sections, one after your academic history, one after personal insight. So either sections you can use, but if it pertains to academic history, you could write it, you know, after your academic history section if you wanted to. So you have two additional comment sections that you can utilize. Alrighty, so we only have about 10 minutes left, Amy. So do you want to go over the case studies briefly and then we can have some time for questions?
Sure. So go ahead. Yeah, so we'll just give you 2 minutes to read through this and then we'll dissect it together. So one thing that we forgot to mention earlier is that when UC look at the applications, they're using what's called the holistic approach to review the application. So they're not looking at just one factor, just your GPA. GPA is one of the more important ones, but they're looking for what is your GPA, what is your transferable GPA? Have you taken the courses that you need for your major? Either you finish all of them or most of the major required courses listed on assist. And then they look for the essays, right? The essays is not the only factor. So they tell us that it's either the essay either help you or it doesn't help you that much, but it doesn't hurt you. It cannot hurt you. So remember that. So in this case, the student is answering the first required question based on the questions listed here. Please describe how you have prepared for your intended major, including your readiness to succeed in your upper division courses once you're enrolled at the university. So this is the question that everyone has to answer. And right off the bat, the student is pretty clear what the major is. We can see that from the second sentence, right? The major is sociology. And what has the student done outside of the class to prepare for this sociology major? The students talked about volunteering at the women's shelter, help feed the homeless communities, tutoring the underprivileged students, and have joined a march in solidarity with the organization dedicated to social issues. So it's all related to sociology. So these students talk about what they have done outside of school, outside of class, to kind of prepare for this major. Furthermore, this is the fourth line. Furthermore, I have studied and continue to study books and articles to help learn and deepen my understanding about this topic. So they talk about books that they have chosen to study outside of just taking classes. And then in the third part, the student transitioned to talk about growing up in a 744 square foot home, very specific, instead of, just single family. They specifically describe, you can kind of picture how small the house is, like the size of about two-car garage, double two-car garage, and a single immigrant mother. So just from there, we find out the students is from a single mom family, immigrant, a small house, and has siblings that they have to help. And it comes from a poor family that they have to also help at a very young age. Seeing how the parents struggle, they don't want to see themselves struggle the way the parents have. So in such a short sentence, we get to know the students a little bit deeper that we would not be able to find out from just reading the applications. And the student says, I recognize that not everything has had the same, not everyone has the same privilege and opportunities that I have. Some for reasons that's beyond their control. Some people born into poverty, it's not something they can control. But the student believes that the key component to restructuring for better society is to first understand it and then make a difference. So first understand how it works, and then to make a difference about something like it, make a change in the society. So in this case, can you go to the next slide? Do you think the student has done a good job and added value to the applications? Has the student highlight the non-classroom involvement related to the major? They talk about what they have done to help. Has the student provided additional context about the background? They talk about the family, right? The single mom, immigrant, has siblings, related to society, and address what they want to gain from this major in the future. And then the students talk about their own experience and not the family members' experience or other people's experience. They gave examples. So this, from the UC's perspective, they add value to the applications. So this is good. They don't want to say good or bad, because it's either you add value or you didn't really, you didn't really do a good job in helping yourself, or you've done a really good job to highlight yourself. So this student, from their perspective, has done a good job in highlighting their background and how they have prepared. Now, compared to the next
Sorry, Amy.
essay.
I think my computer is having some technical difficulties, but I'll do my best to share my screen. If it continues to be this way, Amy, could you share your screen?
It works.
Is it working now? Okay. Yeah, just let me know if it goes weird.
Okay. Okay, we'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to read this one. We lost it.
Weird. Amy, do you think you can share the screen? Do you have the PowerPoint with you?
Yes, I do.
So sorry, students. And I know we only have a couple of minutes left, so sorry to interrupt your reading.
Okay, can you all now see my screen?
I can see it, Amy.
Okay, so this second student who answered the same question, please describe how you have prepared for your intended major. And it's not really clear to me when I read this essay what the major is. The student kept talking about the watch and describe at length about the different parts of the watch and how the watch works. And I thought, you know, the major maybe like I'm studying watch as my major. The student talked about history is a very similar to the puzzle within the watch, while international business is understanding how the specific pieces operate with each other. It's still, I'm not clear as a reader whether the student is talking about the watch or the history as a major or international business major. Even when I read it many times, it's just still not clear to me as a reader what the student's major is. So, and the student used a lot of metaphor in this case, the watch and how every different pieces need to be put together to understand the complicated society that we live in. So to me, the student is using a lot of metaphor, other people instead of addressing the students themselves. Yeah, if you go to the next slide, Soojin. Actually, okay, sorry, I forgot that I, okay, missed opportunity. We feel like the students missed the opportunity to bring highlights to themselves. So spend too much time on the metaphor without connecting the watch to the major. Did not give a lot of example. We're not clear whether a student is majoring in history or international business. The students list activity, but does not really describe them in details. Lack passion for the intended major, didn't give a lot of depth or insight for the reader to understand more about the students. Doesn't reference themselves in the response. So it's always talking about the watch or other people rather than using the I statement. So this students missed the opportunities to highlight themselves. So we gave you two examples. One is good one, so use that as a guide as you write the first one. Okay. So here we have resources that we wanted to leave you with. And actually, let me put this document at least this page in the chat so that you can copy this and use it to help you write. A lot of these resources actually came from UCs. Some of these are YouTube videos from the presentations from the UC representatives, specifically about PIQ, about personal insight questions. So click on all of them and make highlight the ones that are helpful to you as you start writing. And the point is really to help you get started. As we know, the deadline is November 30th. So we don't have a lot of time. So hopefully some of you have already started and then just need to write your first draft, second draft, and ask people to help you proofread. Also, we want to let you know the Transfer Center has a lot of workshops that's happening right now. And you can utilize the services that they provide for free. I want to show you how you can get to that page. So I go to pasadena.edu. And then from here, I'm just going to type a search. That's helped me to get there quicker. So transfer event. So if you do a keyword search, type in transfer events, it takes you to click on the first link. It has a calendar. This calendar tells you when the workshops take place. Because this is a transfer application month, they have a lot of topics that's related to what you are needing right now. One in particular that I want to introduce you is this one, personal insight questions statement, review appointments only. So if you click on this, so next Saturday, they have a lot of different opportunities for you to get help. So if you write your essays now, you can have them review it. And these are people from the UC. So let's suppose I click on this one, November 13. That's next week. Okay. So these are the different time. If I click on register, some workshops you could just show up. Some of this, like this one, you have to register, and then you can find the ones that are not filled, like this one. This coming Saturday, 9 o'clock, you can click on this and you can sign up for it. And then they can give you feedback from their perspective, from the UC's perspective. So there's still some available for you to consider getting help from them. Okay, so I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to put the resource document in the chat.
Thanks, Amy. And I know, Rosa, you wanted to talk about the event that's coming up.
Thank you, ladies. It was great workshop and very informational. We just want to thank the students for being here, and also to remind them that Thanksgiving event that we're having November 19th. We want everybody to sign up for it and come and join us. This event will be in person Friday the 19th from 5 to 7. So we want to invite you to register for it, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the flyer on the chat so that you all have the link to sign up for it. Okay. So again, we hope
good opportunities for you to meet some people in person. For a long time, we haven't had any events in person. So hopefully you join. It's free. You get free food. You get to see some of your friends. You get to meet us in person. Where is it, Rosa?
It's going to be in the Traveling Lounge in the campus center.
So the CC building, first floor.
I'm having a hard time attaching the file, but we will be sending a recording of this presentation, as well as the, I believe, the PowerPoint as well, Soojin. So yeah, we will include the flyer with it as well, but it's also on our newsletter. So make sure you register for the event.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Rosa.
For any questions you might have. And for those of you who don't have any questions, thank you for joining us. You're free to leave. If you have additional questions, we'll stay back a little bit more to answer your questions.
Yes. Amy, did you say you have an appointment at 1, or you're good?
I need to leave soon. Yes.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I could stay behind. I can stop the recording. I don't know if
go ahead.
Yeah, let me stop the recording.